good.
All right, Ben. It's a good time to be a rich person that can just sit at home all day. There's a lot of good RPGs coming out. You got to see one called Lost Dimension, and I think am I right? It's only on PS3.
Yeah, it is only on PS3. It is a game that I knew nothing about until Alice was kind enough to come by and demo it, and I walked away genuinely impressed. They pitched it really well. They said it's a cross between Danganronpa and Valkyria Chronicles, and I find that is completely apt. So sort of the idea of it is you play as this group of kids, and each of them has a special power. So, you have a girl that can cast magic, like fireballs and things like that. That's her power. And they're in this tower, and the tower has 5 floors. And I was not told why they were in this tower, but they're trying to ascend to the top and fight this final boss, okay? But along the way, at each floor, there's somebody in your group that's trying to betray you. And you have to figure out who the traitor is.
Okay.
And at the end of each floor, you will pick who you want to die, presumably the traitor. But you can screw it up. You can pick the wrong person. And the way that it works is, if you pick the wrong person, those people that you wronged will fight against you during the final boss fight.
Wow.
So during the final boss fight, it's supposed to be you versus the final boss. But if for every mistake that you made in picking the wrong victim, they will fight against you, making the final boss fight more difficult.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess if you wanted to go for a really hard run, you could pick everybody wrong.
What's interesting is, except for the very, very first traitor, it's all randomized. And then when you replay the game again, that first traitor is also randomized. When they die, they drop, it's really funny, they drop materia. That's actually what it's called. And the Atlas spokesperson said, I really hope Square Enix doesn't sue us. And you can use that materia to gain some of their abilities, basically.
Right.
And so that's part of the strategy as well, is if your healer dies right away, you're in a bad spot, and you have to, so the game is constantly about making the best out of a bad situation.
Right.
Which is very interesting. So.
Yeah, no, that is a very crazy mechanic. And what kind of clues do you get? Do you get any kind of, it's not random, just, luck of the draw when you pick, right?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So there's a couple of different things. Is everybody has a certain disposition toward everybody else, and you can see that on this graph. And how you interact with people, like, there's friendly fire during combat. So if you're constantly hitting somebody, they're not going to have a very high disposition of you. And what's interesting is the way that you actually pick the traitor is you vote. And they can vote you as the traitor and kill you off, losing you the game.
Wow. Yeah.
So you want to try to be as nice to as many different people as possible so they don't turn the tables against you. So the way that you can kind of suss it out is you form relationships with people. And so, the people that you're super close to, they'll divulge more information. And they'll say, hey, maybe it's this person. What do you think? And you kind of go back and forth with them. The other thing that you can do is...
But it's the guy that's sucking up to you the most. Is that the traitor?
So I wasn't able to see in the demo if they would kind of subvert your expectations like that, or pull a 180 on you, where it's like the person that you're the closest to is actually the traitor. I didn't really get to see that a whole lot, but your special ability, your main character's special ability, is you're a psychic, and you earn these points. I don't remember what the points are called. I'm forgetting. Where you can dive into their mind. And if you play this little mini game, it's very, very weird, where giant text will kind of appear in the air, and you have to kind of run in the direction of the text, but some of the text will throw you off, so you want the text to be red, and so you kind of keep forming this path. You're in this white room where it's just nothing but this text appearing, and you keep following the red text, and if you get to the end, you'll find the person whose mind you dived into, and they will say something important. So basically what you want to do is you're like, okay, I have a suspicion that this person is going to betray me. So I dive into their mind. And at the end, if you're successful, you will get confirmation whether or not they're the traitor. And so you can kind of do it by elimination, right? Where it's like, okay, these 3 people are very likely the traitor. It's not this one, it's not this one, it's this one, sort of a thing. It's crazy. There's a lot of mechanics.
It sounds crazy.
Yeah.
Also, never betray a psychic. I think that's the lowest thing to come.
Right, right.
But what is, so you said Valkyria. What is the combat like?
So it's like Valkyria in the sense where it's kind of the third person strategy RPG where you have full analog control over your characters, but they have, movement points. You can only move a certain distance. Like you have a pool, and your movement and action takes away from that pool of points. And as I said before, positioning is extremely important because there's friendly fire, and a lot of your abilities are AoE abilities, so you don't want to get into a situation where it's like, okay, I run up with my melee guy, hit this person, but now my mage or my gunner or whoever it is can't attack. However, there's another twist, and they said that this later in the game, you're actually going to want to use this because the fights get so difficult that you need it. What you can do is you can, let's say you don't use all of your points, you can transfer those points to somebody else, to another character. So a lot of times in strategy RPGs, I always get annoyed where it's like, okay, I have this character that's good at this specific thing. Like at the beginning of a fight, my healer is really good at healing, but there's nothing for them to do right now, so they're not using all of their points, so they're not being as efficient as possible. In Lost Dimension, you can transfer those points to another character. So you can do more with a single character by transferring those points. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
However, every time you transfer points, there's another mechanic called sanity. They lose sanity if you transfer points away from them. If you lose all of your sanity with that character, and you also lose sanity by shooting at them or damaging them with friendly fire. If you lose all your sanity, they go berserk. You no longer have control of them. They take twice as much damage, but they do twice as much damage. So in very, very difficult battles, you'll want to isolate them, trigger berserk, have them go insane, and just wreck whatever you're struggling against. So
That's great.
yeah, it's between figuring out who the traitor is and the complexity of the fights. This is a kind of game that I don't see very often, and it's not like it's very obvious that it's taking things from Valkyria Chronicles, it's taking things from Danganronpa, it's taking things from Fire Emblem, but it's its own thing. I don't know, it was awesome.
Nice.
So,
well, glad you got to check it out. It definitely sounds interesting. I don't know, how it's going to avoid flying under the radar. I'm sure it still will, but for anyone that's looking for it, keep an eye out. It
being on PS3 only is maybe a little disappointing, but hey, a reason to rehook up your PS3 or to keep it plugged in. So,
yeah.
Thanks, Blood.